Now this is buffer time. Respect.
What is buffer time? Is what? Buffer time.
It's a perfect time to answer that question. What is buffer time, my buffer timers? We may answer that after a whole pile of other questions. But before we get to that, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Dustin from Best of Trek, Worst of Trek.
I'm Ren from Ren Rants.
I'm Josh. You can find me on Windgrace Project.
My name is Vanessa, and I host a YouTube channel called I Love Bad Star Trek.
Wonderful. I don't think we have any news to get to this week. A minor the actress that didn't actually end up dating Odo, I can't remember her name, died at the age of 70.
No. Yeah, we lost someone from TNG too, the Royale.
Yeah, I think she's the same woman.
It's the same one? Oh, okay.
Yep. She played cameos in both those things.
Bummeroo.
But anyway, on to this amazing penultimate episode of Lower Decks. How did the Cerritos miss the Anaximander if their missions both centered around the fissures?
Well, there were a lot of fissures.
This was one of those tiny, sciencey things in this episode that I feel like, and the sort of sciencey narrative, I don't pay too much close attention to because I understand it's just the connective tissue for the narrative. But this is this flummoxed me because they go there as the problem is developing. So maybe they're one step behind. That's the way that I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the way I see it is, we see here that they're multiple realities away from the Prime universe. So, they're dealing with fissures and figuring stuff out a couple of realities away.
With the multiple holes in the Prime universe, is that just the degradation from all of this mischief? Or are the other ship just going back and forth into the Prime universe? That confused me a little.
On my first watch through, I thought it was all the fissures in our universe were a result of what happens at the end of him choosing the Prime universe to be the focal point. But I don't think that was actually really established in the episode. I was just intuiting that, I guess.
I got the impression that they were chasing after the ship that was creating the fissures, and so they were deviating as, strange, because all of these universes consider themselves Prime, but further and further deviating from the Prime reality. So it's a chase. So that's how I understood it. I don't think they were going back and forth from Prime exactly, because they were they wouldn't have gotten that many Harry Kims.
Wait, no, it's just weird that the Cerritos has to go around and close all of these fissures, and it's where are all of these fissures coming from? That's a lot of fissures if they're only exploring each reality to take a look at it once and then go to the next one, right?
I would surmise
falling apart.
It has to do with the bubbles touching each other theory. If you want to, you might go through the same reality twice to get to a different reality.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay.
Also, they mentioned something about once one fissure was created, another one would pop up as sort of a mirror. So maybe that's where that other one would pop up each time is the Prime.
Sorry, I'm just looking private chat. Robbie is asking to be let in, but I literally do not see him on the left side of my screen. Anyway, how was the crew of the Anaximander formed? Did they just pick people up from random distress calls and conscript them into the crew?
I mean, I guess it looks like that's what happened to Lieutenant Harry. They just scoop him up and dump him in the Harry daycare, and then they're
It felt that way, but then also it's like they conveniently got the right people. Like they got a couple chief medical officers, so and no other I don't know. It felt like they must have
There you are, Robbie.
sort of planned. Maybe every universe has a section.
I guess like what the joke with the Kims is meant to sort of translate is that when it wasn't one of the key officers that they actually needed, it was another Harry Kim.
But I just don't. How did they
Always
start?
varies.
Is it literally just Boimler was out there by himself collecting people, or did they start out with like a baseline crew?
Right.
Yeah, it really that feels like a graphic novel or a couple of comic books to lead up to this would be good. You know, like I feel like he probably had a crew and then lost most of them on the mission and just has been picking people up. But like, why is he not leaving these people back in their own realities? That's the only thing. Like, he just kind of conscripts them. Like, oh, okay, well now you're here. We're not going to return you or anything.
Well, we know their realities aren't destroyed because they're arguing about which one to go back to later.
Maybe they just don't know how to send them back. That was a problem with the little tiny Voyager.
And none of the other officers have the eye roll Section 31 badge. So they're not on a Section 31 mission in their reality to join this ship either. So it must be a thing where he's conscripting them somehow. Did they all fake their deaths? Like, you know?
I really did like how many different variations of badges and styles of uniforms we got here.
And settling in the Delta Quadrant is such an interesting idea. I really want to actually see that Voyager.
Oh, that could be a whole nother what if video for me. What if Voyager just stopped and planted some roots?
Just immediately.
What if they accepted the offer from the weird, like, European guy with the rings on his
Yeah.
head?
Well,
We
that
want
didn't
to
end well.
give
They
you
got
pleasure.
assimilated.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, yeah, it always ends with them getting assimilated, no matter what they do.
Or in the very first episode, like allowed themselves to get pregnant with the alien or whatever.
Oh, the caretaker.
That's a good one, Norman. Yeah, like settle, because that was another big one where Janeway thought they were going to lose some crew and nobody left.
I'm still mad Amelia Earhart didn't join the crew. That would have been so fun.
Yes. Literally.
Oh god, that'd be a good one too. What if the Silver Blood Voyager made it to Earth, and more so that they make it there first.
Oh, that'd be spicy.
Apparently, there was an original plan for Species 8472 to have a duplicate Voyager arrive to Earth first. They actually had a scene where fake Janeway was going to snap Mark's neck, and that was how we were going to learn it was fake. But they did the space station instead.
That's dark.
They did genocide the species, so fair.
Oh,
that's an awesome question, Norman. That's very probable.
Just starts melting halfway through the last episode.
Well, he has other Kims to steal DNA from. He'll be fine.
Yeah, one of them is just that one that didn't make it in the Prime universe.
That would be great if they did establish that.
In what ways do you think Harry Kim has been held back from promotion in other universes?
Rick Berman.
Mic drop.
There was like a memory alpha entry. I forget exactly where, but they always needed an ensign. That's why he was like never promoted on the show, was this idea that an ensign must exist there. But it's like usually Harry Kim is like the one voice of reason on the ship sometimes. So it's like,
by the time
really
Wesley left, the only one we have in TNG is Ensign Gates, and she doesn't even have a speaking role.
It is interesting. I do love that Harry is an ensign, but gets like invited to all of the senior bridge meetings, thereby snubbing any other lieutenants that aren't there.
My favorite is the white and black flight suit Harry.
He was the one that settled, wasn't he?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I found that so interesting, and I agree. I really enjoy the uniform. I think like it seems as if a lot of the ensign Harry Kims are entirely fine being ensigns. Like they don't mind it. They seem to be kind of, I don't want to say Boimler-ish because was sort of self-sabotaging towards the beginning, but like they're just content where they are. They're not ambitious necessarily. But it does stand out in that in most realities he's not promoted.
Even after they get home, which I find fascinating.
I do think it's cute that at least in Voyager, Harry seems similarly excited about the big chair to the way Boimler is whenever he gets the little like night shift on the bridge. I also love the little arrangement of the Harrys here, like just hanging out together. It's so cute.
They formed this little community. It's really adorable, actually.
Janeway's sure not looking for him.
It'd be a cool like murder mystery across the multiverse, like somebody's killing Harry's.
I'm still like, I always laugh at the scene in Deadlocked where B'Elanna like taps her comm and calls Janeway, and she's like, "Harry's dead," and Kes disappeared, and she's just like, "Oh, disappeared!" Like, no reaction whatsoever to Harry. Like, poor little guy.
Yeah, Wind Grace, I want a novel that's a Dixon Hill novel, and Dixon Hill is solving where all the Harry Kims have gone.
Would there be a Dixon Hill multiverse? Like a Picard cosplay?
Oh, definitely.
If Vic Fontaine's a real boy in the Mirror Universe, why not?
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the strangest crossover pieces ever.
Oh, has anybody ever played the mobile game Star Trek Timelines? This sort of plays on this idea a little bit, where you can have an entire ship of one type of officer, and a lot of people, some of the highest ranking folks, the most coveted is Vic Fontaine. All Vic Fontaines.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Slight variations, but the same guy, yeah.
Is Lieutenant...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to move on to another question.
Oh, I was just going to say I'd be fine with a ship of all Harrys.
I mean, pretty much it's here. Is Lieutenant Kim's shock at there being more than 2 dimensions a meta acknowledgement that this is a 2D animated show?
I hadn't even thought of that till I heard you mention it, so I do like that idea.
It does make sense.
I would say so. I think the show establishes that like the quantum realms and sort of like physical dimensions are a little different, but that makes a lot of sense.
Do you think they could have slipped in an actual live action version of Harry Kim into the collection, just sitting in the background?
I bet they could have.
I mean, obviously, the crossover episode too, would that be like the live action be considered like another dimension entirely?
They did kind of make reference to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly how they
like kind of like the Simpsons when they see each other, they see themselves in like 40 and
right.
It's really
when Boimler becomes a real boy in Strange New Worlds there, and he's like, "You guys look so real."
A real boy.
Those old scientists. Yes, thank you.
Are these quantum realities out of sync with time in the Prime universe? We talked about this back in episode 1, that we were wondering like why certain things in a universe that was only less than 1% different had happened seemingly quite out of order. Or are the entire crew of the Anaximander about to start losing molecular cohesion like Giorgio in Discovery?
I'm gonna assume they are, and maybe as they come out from like a central point, time is relative to that central point. So the closer to the center of this bubble bath or whatever you want to call it, time moves at a different rate than like the edge of it.
I mean, it would make sense as to why T'Pol is still like young and hot looking, however many, 200 years later or whatever.
Yeah,
That
it'd be
can be-
well over 200 if she aged normally.
Because like Spock and Sarek were old as hell, like much younger than she seemingly is.
I mean, plus Lily is, another how many years? 50 years prior to even to Paul's era.
Yeah.
100. Yeah,
100?
it was it's straight 100 because her era is 2060s and Paul's in 20. Well, at least in Enterprise, it's 2160. So I guess by the time Trip dies, it's like 2210.
Well, yeah, 63 years from, I don't know, season 4 of Enterprise. So yeah.
And yeah, she's like 60 then. So yeah.
Does anybody know where the name of the ship comes from?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't when the episode aired, and I wish I
Mhm.
had when I had done my first video because I feel stupid now.
I mean,
I didn't know till I looked into it. But
yeah, I just Googled it beforehand, so I was just curious if anybody saw any sort of like connection between the two things. That was obvious that I mean,
yeah. Some of his theories were about like I had it written down. I don't have it in front of me. Were about like different worlds coming into being and then resolving into death. So kind of like a multiverse idea.
Interesting.
Oh no, not that one. This. But in that scenario, you're still in your same universe, and that seems to be the problem. You can't both jump time and universes. Anrax was just jumping time, messing with time, really. And yeah, when I did my video, I only when I don't know something, like I go to Memory Alpha, and if I see something, okay, well, it's callback. And if not, I'm like, okay, well, so they mashed up Anarax, Axanar, and the Salamander babies. The Anaximander. Yeah, I don't think Robbie's mic was working. I don't know what happened there.
Oh no.
Okay. So moving on from that, no question, just oh my god. Garashir, you guys, Garashir.
Yes.
And they didn't even like they didn't couch it in any like innuendo or anything. It was just we're going for it.
They're married. I do also like that there's an alternate universe where Bashir, I guess, doesn't get found out and does become the EMH. Mad cute.
And Garrett kept trying to tempt him with things that he can never feel because he's not a living being. Wine and massages and all of that.
Yeah, this feels like it really was to make up for the Rick Berman days when we couldn't have nice things.
Do you think they would have gone all in if it wasn't near the end? Or do you think it was just the plan going into it? I don't know.
Well,
And
I know
how
Mike
they came up with this.
I
Just a
think it
collective
just
of people. Go ahead.
well, I mean, at least as far as this piece, I don't know about like everybody else on the ship, but I know Mike McMahon had said at like Comic-Cons and stuff before that people had asked him about like, oh, could you do like Garashir? He didn't want to step on what had already been, but going outside of the Prime universe, you can do whatever the frig you want. So I think this just gave them the chance to finally like, okay, we can put these guys in. If we're gonna have these guys, who else can we bring back? You know, I think it was just who's available and who will play ball for, limited
I've
budget.
seen so much, like I'm not on Twitter a whole lot. It's a cesspool, but like the little I have been, people are freaking out trying to be like, no, this would
Nice.
never happen. And that to me is the most satisfying thing. It's a freaking cartoon. Like, lighten up, number one. And number two, like, they were totally flirting on the show. Like, come on.
Did you guys have any actual questions you wanted to get out here about Garashir, or just like more fangirling?
Did anybody else find their relationship dynamic a little odd? Because they were arguing the whole time.
That's pretty on brand for like
Yeah.
their vibe in DS9, especially because Garrick loves to poke people. Like he just likes to mess with people a little bit and get a rise out of them.
Yeah, I mean, they even put it in the plot. Like, oh, we just, you just love to argue. And then like, no, I don't. Yeah, they just, that's their thing.
I also like not that they really played with it, but Garrett can actually literally turn him on and off whenever he wants to.
Ooh.
And that's like one of those like ethically odd things about being in a relationship with somebody that is not in a corporeal form. Like with Data earlier in the season, they would just turn him off if they didn't want to talk to him anymore. It's like, oh, is that really like, I don't know. It gives me the ick.
The wife.
Which is the more interesting way to explore? Warping around the galaxy or jumping between realities?
I mean, they're both really neat. I think I can see Boimler's perspective in terms of like not getting to see more of the galaxy and more like different planets and stuff. But I do think the perspective that exploring like different versions of humanity is really interesting is also true. Like both would be very cool.
I don't think a compelling case was made at all for the quantum realities being as interesting as this. I'm so sorry, I forget the character's name.
Lily?
The one who, what's her name?
Lily?
Lily, yes. Lily says, oh, I saw humanity make rings around Saturn, but like Boimler has been tracking her this entire time and is bored out of his skull, and just like slight variations of the same person running into that over and over again. I just can't think of a bigger exercise in vanity and narcissism than just like looking at different versions of ourselves.
Well, I mean, I think for Boimler, it was just a job, and he's just letting it pass him by because he's got a one-track mind on it.
Right.
He's not
but
stopping to smell the roses, which is too bad for him.
Right. But like, he's got a ship full of different variations of different people. He's had all this time to get to know them in one form or another, even though he's clearly ragged from the whole thing. But I think part of that wariness is like, he didn't join Starfleet for this.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for the Lily Sloan version of this. I think Gene Roddenberry would highly approve because it's like, this is the crux of Star Trek. We're viewing humanity through a lens, and the lens of aliens, and she's even like, it's fine and fun to like study aliens, but why not study humanity? So they're basically doing the same thing Star Trek has done, just without studying the aliens quite as much. They're two sides of the same coin, really. At least for us as viewers. In universe, yeah, I guess it is different.
I'd watch both those shows, so.
I mean, there's like Quantum Leap, There's shows kind of like that. Sliders.
Rick and Morty.
Mm-hmm.
As I say, Sliders, there you go. That's just that.
Mm-hmm. Until John Rhys Davies got mad at Fox, and because all they started doing was ripping off movies.
It's easy to fall into that, I think. if all you're doing is just the same thing but different variations thereof. I don't know. I think like going into space wasn't done with the sole purpose of just seeing reflections of ourselves in other cultures. I think it was to understand that we're not the center of existence, that we're not the default. You know, I know that there's that weird TNG episode where they have like the blank standard template for humanoid thing explained.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought that was so ridiculous. But like, I think the point of exploration is to like come across things unlike ourselves, to expand our understanding of just the everything out there, not just ourselves.
We're not the center of everything, yet in the Star Trek universe, Earth is still Sector 001. So
Is the science explaining the fissures weird?
I'm not enough of a science to know, honestly.
it works for me. I mean, I don't know how practical it is.
I honestly found the science in this episode just so difficult to keep up with. That was the thing that I found the most confusing. I had to watch the episode a couple times to really get it, or get it as much as I can. I think the explanation for the fissures are as good as any other explanation for an anomaly in Star Trek, but yeah, I just felt like a lot was packed in to explain why things are happening, and it was difficult to follow.
I think they even knew that because they put in that line with Harry, like, stop trying to confuse me with engineering technobabble. I have 2 pips now.
Yeah, this episode did lean pretty heavy into the technobabble, and I think it was okay. I think sometimes you can overuse it, and they used it in just interesting enough ways. Is there any real science to this? No.
I mean, they used enough words that sounded right.
But at least it's like random enough technobabble that has no basis in science at all. It's not like the Arc that I watched recently, where it's like there's some just like science things that you learn in like high school science and basic trigonometry and physics and stuff to know. Like,
it also
doesn't
felt
make any
like,
sense.
yeah, like it makes sense in world, but doesn't really actually make physical scientific sense. But like, I think they were also trying to do their best to make it not another Red Angel thing too. They tried to making it as different as possible from that phenomenon, so it doesn't look like just a copy and paste situation.
I had one with chronotons, blah blah blah. Okay. Is Big Starfleet Nerd indeed an accurate descriptor of Jonathan Archer? I don't think he's the biggest nerd. He is
nerdy.
He's like the OG nerd. He like built Starfleet. So I don't know that. I feel like a nerd has to be at least in the 2nd or 3rd generation of a thing, because you're looking at it with some amount of nostalgia to like be so into it. I don't know.
I think it takes a lot of courage to go into the dark unknown wilderness, basically alone in one ship. It's not like they had a fleet of ships that were warp capable that they could use to sort of like be in touch with. They were really going out on a limb doing this. This is so. I don't know if that's not nerdy behavior, I don't know what is. Just going off on a hunch that this will turn out okay. They didn't even have guns on the ship at first. Like they had these sort of like nothing
torpedoes,
burger.
but they didn't have any. Yeah, they had no phase cannons or phasers.
So to go out there without any sort of comprehensive defense system is pretty ballsy.
Yeah, Starfleet kind of learned by getting its ass kicked over the years. I mean, John even talks about it like right after the Xindi conflict, and he goes home and he climbs that mountain with his ex-girlfriend who captains Columbia after him, and she's like, "Do we really need all these weapons?" And he's like, "Yeah, you'll need those and more." Because like he didn't really want weapons on the ship. He didn't want it to be a ship of war. He wanted to go out showing peace. But you get your ass kicked enough, and you start carrying a bigger stick.
And not even like ass kicking purposes, but just like having, like meeting with Klingons and having no weaponry is like diplomatically a bad thing to do.
Try your mic. I can. Barely. You got to turn you up, but let's try that.
Okay, is this better?
Yep.
Okay, all right then.
Sorry you've been left out and keep having to come back.
Yeah. I don't know what the trick is with this phone. It worked last week. Well, the week before that, actually.
So, how do you feel about the reveal of Lily Sloan as slightly less than the season bad guy?
Didn't see it coming.
Nowhere near my final bad guy bingo card.
No. Although I do like the fact that it was not a malevolent act. It was kind of a unintended consequence.
Yeah, completely out of left field. I like that it's kind of a deep cut character.
The way
but
I
that's lower
understand it,
decks.
Alfre Woodard, she's a Trekkie just by herself, so I'm sure she was very happy to come back.
I think for a moment I worried it was a little too random, but then I kind of just had to give up on that. I mean, compared to some of the other plotting we've been dealing with in Lower Decks this season, this is a perfectly fine deep cut. That's a good pitch for the fans to latch on to and think about the possibilities of. And that should be a good deal of what Lower Decks is about all around.
I mean, what's
Yes,
more
even
random,
more
this or
than
Nick?
Nick Locarno.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody out there was like, yeah, maybe Nick Locarno came back and he's got a grudge against the Federation. Okay, I can see that. But then it's like Lily Sloan just comes out of left field. But and if you still have more about Lily, that's fine. Throw it in here with this question. Does Harry Kim as a bad guy makes much sense? And I just want to throw this out here. Last season was not Tom Paris, and this season was not Prime Universe Harry Kim as the bad guy. Friends in not quite baddom, I guess.
I like the idea of not even really evil Harry Kim. I just wish the motivation had been more than just like what it was. Kind of like self-interest. Like I thought it's something along the lines of maybe he had a universe he didn't want to get back to or something like that. I don't know. But just he was a little too goofy, I guess, in his motivations. A little too arch.
Yeah, by the end, I mean, obviously he's an alternate universe Harry, so whatever, he's whoever he is in that universe. But I mean, it's definitely not Prime Universe Harry Kim behavior. I cannot see him getting to lieutenant and then just turning into like kind of an asshole like this guy.
This reminded me so much of the Doomsday Machine when
Okay.
sort of
Commodore
like
Decker.
yes, because he has that same sort of like maniacal bearing and staring down certain death and being like ha ha ha, like the same vibe.
I get I was thinking more of like a Henry Starling, just the arrogance that they're telling him he's going to blow up if he goes into it. He's like, no, I'm not. Oh, crap.
I also felt like this was a little early 90s Nickelodeon on a certain level, like the way he cackles before death, like the way his face stretches out. Felt very fun on an animation level for me.
The Pip was here, but not anymore.
Like
But he's
maybe
Harry
that
fucking Kim.
but like it's interesting to see what like all the other Harry Kims seem to be rather fine with being an ensign, but like being a lieutenant in this particular universe, like it seems like he's a pretty unstable guy. Maybe that's why he defaults to being an ensign in all the other realities. Like that little bit of power just sets something off.
Would it have been a more satisfying ending if Captain Boimler had reduced him in rank to stop him?
Yes. Yeah, I actually I really would have liked to have seen something other than just, and it's just this quick, it's like poof. Like, okay, I was not even a huge bang. I mean, that comes after, but you know, it did seem like a really late in the game reveal of a bad guy, and then a really easy turnaround on that. Well, as easy as almost destroying all dimensions simultaneously, I guess.
So that the rest of yourselves can get a slight promotion.
Street corn. It's all street corn.
Was it street corn in those Black Mountain potatoes Shax was eating?
Oh, probably. That's why he was mad. I don't like shepherd's pie either.
By the way, I wanted to say to Norman that I am not Prime Universe Robbie. Prime Universe Robbie does not wear his jacket on stream like a jackass. Also, Prime Universe Robbie, he loves Scrubs. Like, God, that guy loves Scrubs. Like, he just never shuts up about the fucking show. Oh God, you're glad I'm here today, Norman. You can thank me after the show, buddy.
Yeah, every time you logged in, you were a different Robbie here today.
Yeah, I hate that Prime 37 Robbie. Asshole.
Why the difference in facial hair growth between the Boimlers?
Maybe the confidence is stored in the facial hair. For some reason, William Boimler was always very, like, confident. So maybe his, like, little, like, filled in stubble is from that. Does give him that grizzled look.
You know, I kind of wondered that myself, but I didn't know if I had enough to really go off of. But now that you mention it early on in the episode, the Prime Boimler we see is just so like focused and calm. He's not like the manic Boimler that we kind of know, like who's worried about doing stuff. Like he has confidence in a way. The Boimler that takes up the rest of our episode kind of doesn't. Like he's kind of breaking down for God knows how long he's been running through these fissures.
My guess is that this Boimler probably did have the full beard, same as Prime Boimler, you know, just to emulate his protege Riker. But then as he gets more into this mission and he hates the constant jumping universes, he shaved it off and he is so annoyed with it.
It just looks like he's just done with everything. Like this is his lot in life to do this alone, which is another sort of plot thing I don't understand. If like Section 31 now that Section 31 is canonized as being an arm of Starfleet, why is Boimler doing this alone? I don't understand. But I think just like having to be on this mission, they needed to signify his sort of like mental state. And I think this is one of the shorthanded ways to do that. Sort of like the tidy whities and the bags under the eyes in that one episode where he's on Ferenginar and like watching TV for days on end kind of thing.
Yeah, this does remind me of that, like where he was stuck on Ferenginar in the hotel room there. Yeah.
This is as good of a continuation of William Boimler's saga as I could have hoped for this late in the game. Like this episode just threw me out of left field. I'm pretty much loving it. I mean, there's a few like conceptual things you could probably point out, but just all around good stuff.
Do you think Rutherford's implant will play a part in the final episode?
Definitely. That's too much of a card they're putting out there on the table. Like if they don't do something with that, that'll be a loss for his character's opportunities.
Maybe they'll finally give him something to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, his character, even if he like has a significant chunk of things to do, he's been lost and wasted this season, which sucks, but maybe it was just Eugene Cordero's schedule or something.
I just like, if that's the thing they're foreshadowing with this sort of malfunction that they show in the beginning of this episode, that's kind of a tragedy that his sort of like implant gets more character development than he does. Since we only have one episode left anyway.
Mm-hmm.
God,
Yeah, and Tendi got a ton early in the season already, so
yeah.
I mean that's not huge.
T'Lyn has also been underutilized this season, although the little bits we've got her in have been just like so good.
Oh, is
I can't believe it's almost over.
At least we got that planet where Tendi and T'Lyn got a lot of action.
Yeah, that was
Kind
a
of
great
mid-season.
freaking episode.
Rutherford, I mean, I can't even think of anything he's done since Tendi got back besides just kind of grow a beard for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like one of the big reasons I don't really care if we get a season 6 or not. This season was pretty mid. We didn't get a lot of Rutherford. It feels like TNG season 7 all over again. Like, okay, there's a bunch of mid to bad episodes, and then we're backloading with a couple of great ones right at the very end. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna let that sink this one, but I'm not on the like #save Lower Decks train anymore. This seems like this 5 seasons seems like it's like pretty good run for these guys.
If you're not going to like develop the characters or like tell a deeper story about where the Cerritos is or like what these officers' journeys are through Starfleet, I think 5 seasons is more than enough. How many times can you like make, Easter egg heavy, nostalgia ridden sort of like goofy things? That has its mileage, but I think unless you like look to develop anything, there's really no point in like fighting for more.
So what do you feel the show needs to wrap up from the past 5 seasons in this final episode?
I mean, we need to finally resolve Boimler's arc and like get him to a place where he's clearly moved on from the scared, constantly second guessing himself ensign he started out as, and like it felt like he was kind of getting there towards the end of season 4, but then these like huge like backslides for him have really I think hindered that this last season for him.
To answer Mr. Captain's question, what guest stars do you want to see next week? I want to see Anthony Montgomery as Travis Mayweather, because out of any person in all of Star Trek that has gotten shafted, like Harry Kim is like the joke, but Mayweather got it worse. We actually got like development of Harry Kim. They never ever once tried to develop Travis Mayweather, and that's too bad.
They
Or
half-heartedly gave him something in the finale. I'm thinking we might see Hoshi in Section 31, but that's probably just a pipe dream. That would be Mirror Universe Hoshi, but it'd be something. I would like to see, yeah, exactly. Oops, sorry, Terry Farrell, Jadzia Dax, Katra implant or something at least to wrap up that story. But I don't want to see that story wrapped up at the expense of our main Lower Decks people, which is kind of a weird balancing act to do now.
That is fair though, because like T'Pol absorbing a symbiont's memories is not an insignificant event, and I hope that's followed up on. They only have one more episode, and I agree that like detracting from the main plot would be too much, but if it could feed into the main plot somehow, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I have to wonder if we'll actually get anything from that alternate crew again. Since, we just spent a whole episode with them, and clearly it's setting up this to be a lot of time with our main characters finally. But, I guess we'll see.
I would love to see Garrick again, prime or alternative. I just enjoy that character 100%.
This is a really easy one, but I'd like to see Jonathan Frakes back in the Lower Decks universe. Maybe give him like a big juicy thing to hook onto at some point. I hope they have like an hour-long finale or something, like surprise us. I really hope they don't just undercut us with a half an hour, because we have so many characters. I have so many little things we could tie up about them that would be satisfying. I have a feeling this is going to be Mariner heavy and Boimler heavy more than anything, based on how the season's been going.
I mean, even this episode was about 6 minutes longer than your average Lower Decks episode. They usually average about 22.5 minutes.
Oh.
This one was 28.5, so.
Well, now we know where the budget went to. Yeah, I see now.
It's all downhill from here.
They could only afford half of
were...
Jolene's name, though.
Yeah, I had to wonder about that. I mean, that must have been like her choice to just credit herself as that. Is she like, I don't know if she's getting a divorce or like changing her name or something, or if that's just like gonna be her new stage name.
My hopes, both.
But she hadn't acted in 7 years before this.
Yeah.
Last I knew, she was devoted to just being a stay-at-home mom and just wanted to do that, and like didn't want anything to do with acting. And I know there was some kind of bad blood with Star Trek that she's never fully acknowledged, and I have to wonder if she's one of the many that was in the path of Hurricane Berman, but there's not enough to know.
That plus just the treatment of a lot of the people on Enterprise were unhappy with their treatment, especially with that finale, so.
Yeah, I was really disappointed with that, Tasha. Like, we had that episode fully dilated. Mm-hmm. Even if it had just been right at the end, like, okay, she had her baby, and like, after Tendy's tour of duty, she's gonna go home. Okay, great. That could have been
right.
Perfect.
Like, there's no canon established with regard to like Orion gestation periods, so it could be like 2 weeks and pops out. Yes, I would like to see that as well. There's a lot that they could touch on that I just feel like in one episode it's going to be tough to squeeze all that in.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we might get a montage into their future. See some things like that.
I wonder if this episode will be the destruction of the 2D dimension altogether. Like they fail. And that's
and then it's like just them as the
timeline.
And then it all ends with them as like real people.
They're all playing poker as real people.
That'd be wacky.
Yeah, I feel like that has to be a thing now that like both Picard and TNG did it, and this is more TNG heavy than anything else as a show. Yeah.
Or like Go Fish or something, not poker. Something funnier. I don't know. Old Maid.
Batless and Benax.
Yeah. It does make sense. Though.
Yeah.
Because the thing the ship is named after does deal with the destruction of multiple universes in theory. So maybe there is a failure and they kind of converge or something.
Nope, I don't want to give Anson Mount any more time in Star Trek than he deserves in Strange New Worlds at this point, personally, Mr. Captain, sorry. And for that, I mean, just, go look at his Twitter
really
timeline,
bad.
and if you agree with him after that, well, that's good for you. A lot of us do not. He says some things. Boy, doesn't he. Anyway, I am out of questions here. Does anybody else have stuff they want to get into before we do our out of 10s?
Is Section 31 something different in the Lower Decks universe? Because he can't even name Section 31 in the captain's log.
Right, but it is what it is. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those like, oh, we don't, which shall not be named.
Super secret secrets.
secretly secret organizations.
Double secrets, triple secrets, quadruple secrets.
Has the Asholot species come up before in Lower Decks, or is that
Oh, the little the
I can't
salamander
remember
things,
the
the
actual
axolotls.
name. I just keep
Yeah.
calling them the axolotls.
Ashalot is correct.
I just call them guesses.
Whatever
begins
they
with a
are, they're very
Q.
cute, and I love them.
I guess we need to watch
Even if
Engineering
they're
Mariners
zapping
Lower Decks.
people, I love them. They can zap me if I trespass. It's fine.
They're an evil scarf-wearing race.
They're just little guys.
I like the Moopsie reference, not by name, but that was cool.
Yeah, that was great. I was hoping we would get, and maybe we will get a Moopsie in the
Okay.
final
Jack
episode. But
Moopsie.
There is a hilarious joke when Mariner comes back on board after they have dealt with all these like creatures in this bog, and she's like, my calves are all sore from waiting.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, it's better in the episode. I didn't do it justice.
I liked how Curzon did the little shimmy walk like Boimler too when they were in the
like, Curzon was a nice touch for like a character that has never been a character that we've really, gotten to know directly, but we've gotten to know a lot about secondhand.
Mhm.
The only thing that bothered me here is there should have been at least one reference of Boimler calling him the old man.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that would have been cute.
I kept waiting for it, and it never came.
like I wonder how Curzon or Dax the symbiont feels about, well, this isn't Prime Curzon, so maybe he doesn't know the difference, but like our Prime Curzon died while having sex, whereas this Curzon got stabbed
Oh.
by an alien. So
And
I
didn't
just wonder
get
if
Both,
lovers.
both absolute cads. God bless them. I'll love them till the day I die. God bless them.
like this Curzon said, "Oh, I lived to the fullest," but he measured that by eating sodium and speaking some Klingon.
That's Eris, that is some goddamn Ron Swanson swag, okay? Just being like, I'll fucking kill myself with sodium. I don't care. Who cares on Dax? Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, this one didn't get that good Vanessa Williams action last time he was on Risa. That's
See,
sometimes that's all it takes.
That would be a cool addition, like a Rysian on the ship. Anyway.
All right. Well, let's do this thing out of 10. And I'm going to do it with justice by starting off with a 10. This is a solid goddamn episode. The only thing I could find wrong, even like the tiniest thing when I did my review and gave it a dislike for, was that they didn't do a blue alert when they sat down on that planet. If any other show didn't do that, I wouldn't sin it. But this show, like, they really do get the little things, and they love those little callbacks, and that's a missed opportunity. But short of that, this is the perfect penultimate episode. I mean, this is better than, I'd say, quite a few, even, at least half of the final episodes of Star Trek. Go ahead, Ren.
Yeah, I'd give this like a 9.75. It's very nearly flawless. It's so fun. It's great in such a self-contained way as well, and the crew of the Anaximander is interesting. Like, it's just, yeah, it's a fantastic episode. It's hard to think of anything much to complain about with it.
Well, it's my turn with the sharing shift, so I'd really like to give this like a 9.5, but I think maybe a 9 is a little bit better for it, because I think there is a little bit of nostalgia bait going into this, a little bit of fan fiction pandering, which it's not bad. It's not bad on any level, but there is a certain level of just like fun we're having with these characters for how long we're going to have them in our sights. I think maybe it's a little frustrating with Lower Decks that sometimes the support characters get much more interesting arcs going on with them. And like this takes us away. Oh, 9.7, Norman. Interesting. This takes us away from our main cast for so long. And I think that's a problem always. Like if you're in a show and some of your more interesting elements are with a entirely different cast. But I think it's also good for Lower Decks to break out of that because I think the Mariner stuff has kind of worked its way into a little bit of a rut, and they've been trying to give her more subtle character moments, but they're not necessarily paying off the way other things have. I love the Garrick and Bashir stuff. That's pitch perfect on every level, and it's quick enough to be funny, but it doesn't. It's not funny in a mean-spirited way, in the way some people are about the Garrick and Bashir stuff online. I see you people. I know what shitty things you're saying online about Garrick and Bashir. Yeah, you're feeling me, Dustin. Yeah, I think this has earned a very, very solid 9. This does nostalgia right. It gives us character motivations that are full and they are worked out in a episodic package. Like I wish Picard could have learned something from this. I wish this episode was around when like Discovery was starting out because it would really help them like understand how to kind of weave things in together in a way that serves older material but isn't drowning in it, isn't like creating stale dynamics for it, like it's creating something fresh and new to play around in. And this is from seasoned veteran Rick and Morty, so he knows all about multiverse shenanigans, and this feels right up his wheelhouse and all the things he's good at. So yeah, this is a real strong 9 for everyone involved.
So I agree that there were some things I would have liked the episode to do, but I don't think that's necessarily a fault of this episode. My biggest problem with the episode, and it's not even that much, would be Harry Kim's motivation, or evil Harry Kim's motivation, feeling a little lacking. But they definitely chose a good selection of guest stars, whether or not it was just who was available or not. They utilized them pretty well. They gave them arcs or characteristics or something. It wasn't just, window dressing, I guess. They could have very easily populated the Defiant or whatever, the Anaximander with just like 50 random cameos that had nothing to do. Could have been like, oh, look, there's 3 leaders sitting over there. Or, just a bunch of random stuff that didn't really have anything to do with the plot. So they integrated fun callbacks, but in kind of a twisted way. It gave us a little closure, is a weird thing to say because like it's not the same version of T'Pol, but we know at least one version of them had a happy ending, her and Trip. So yay. That's always nice to see. It gave closure to people that wanted to see things with Garrick and Bashir. Again, not the Prime universe, but still it exists out there. It's canon now. People can't say it doesn't exist. So that's always a bonus point too. And I just think that this is a fun episode that we'll have to revisit. This is probably the most excited about the show I've been all season, outside of maybe when it was first coming back and we didn't know what they were doing. So I'm probably going to have to go with about a 9.75 too.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so I give this episode a 9. I think that, like Rob said, it's a shame that the main cast of the show is sort of like taking a back seat, but it's like there's other seasons where that has been the case and that has been to its benefit. Like the episode where they're on the bird planet with Peanut Hamper. I thought that was the best of that season because it didn't focus on the cast of Cerritos. But it's like, then what is Lower Decks about? Is it just like, why not, instead of focusing on the Cerritos crew, like have different sort of amalgamations of this idea sort of transposed into different episodes? Like we could have had a multiverse the whole time. You know what I mean? The sci-fi stuff, the sci-fi aspect of this, I thought was kind of difficult to follow. The relationship with Starfleet and Section 31, and this is inconsistent with what Section 31 is now. And I find that conspicuous not just because of Discovery, but because of the movie coming out. Are you okay with genocide or aren't you? Like, you pick a struggle. But yeah, it was entertaining. I thought the nostalgia was well implemented. Garashir, cool with it. I prefer, in terms of queer relationships, Culber and Stamets personally. They like seeing a couple fight the whole time. It's like but yeah, I thought this was a competent penultimate episode, but it's like it left me wanting more, and I don't know how to define it.
Well, that's fair. I mean, it does leave you wanting more, and that's the thing. To be continued. We'll see what happens next week. I agree with you that Stamets and Paul are, or wait, no, that's Paul Stamets. Stamets and Culber are, they are they're the more realistic relationship, but this one, like, oh my God. I mean, this is something that so many of us have wanted to pay off for decades, and it finally paid off. So I both agree with you and think that this is a fangirl moment. It is great. I love it. And this is one of our highest overall averages ever. 9.56 on this. What a great episode. Anybody have any final thoughts?
I think Scott messaged the Facebook chat and gave it a 9.5 as well.
Yeah, so that won't really change this significantly.
No, I just wanted to note it.
Nice. Yep. So I mean, that probably makes it like a 9.53 or something.
Regardless, Garashir, yay!
All right.
Well,
Well,
I am curious if they've announced how long the next episode is.
Oh.
wait, because I am curious. Like, if you find an answer.
It doesn't seem to say. I'll look around more, but I hope it's at least like an hour, but that might be too much to hope for.
Yeah, it really does kind of need it. And every show has gotten, a double episode to finish up. So I would be kind of surprised if we don't. I'll take a half a point to a point right off the top if they don't next week for sure.
Oh man. Making threats already, Dustin.
Okay, and it's confirmed it has an extended runtime, but it's not saying what that is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's not like fully double, if we get like 40 minutes or something, that'll probably work.
I'm relieved to hear that, because one of the things that sort of nicks that like fraction of a point off for me, in addition to the things that I stated, is like it seemed like it rushed a lot of details that didn't need to be rushed. So hopefully the pacing in this next
they could have cut out the whole axolotl plot line. I mean, that was just pure filler to like give us to artificially set up a meeting between the two crews, I feel like. And if they had reworked that a little bit, I think there would have been some time to pack a few more things that really mattered in. But yeah.
I hope we get some more resolution in the relationship between Freeman and Mariner. That seems like good. That hasn't gotten a lot of traction.
And if
there's just a lot of character wrap-ups we need for not even the main cast, so probably won't get it all.
I want some more Shax stuff going on. He's been kind of an undervalued part of what's happened over the last half season. I like Shax a lot. Very interesting character. I like his war wounds. It's a lot. It's a lot of weight compared to what a lot of the other characters in Lower Depths have to deal with.
I think one of the only past characters that we've never touched on since they left was Fletcher. And I was like, I was kind of gunning for Fletcher to be the bad guy from an alternate reality here because, I mean, other than that, we have seen like almost everybody that we've seen in Lower Decks, at least on the Cerritos at some point or another in the season. So that's not nothing.
By the way, guys, I really hope you don't think I'm the bad guy from the alternate reality, because let me tell you something. That's alternate Robbie Prime 3786. You know, that guy's the bad guy from the alternate reality, not me.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to get out of here. One episode left, and they have a lot to live up to. We're starting from a 9.5 this week. I'd like to say it's only got one place to go, but there's an awful lot of room to go down. So, we'll find out next week. I'd like to thank all of you guys that joined me here this week, and all of you for tuning in. So, until we see you again,